The 2026 NFL Combine is in the books, and draft season is still just getting started. Mark Ross will be here tonight to tell you who boosted their stock over the past week in Indianapolis. Trade winds are already howling, and the epicenter of this storm is in Houston. We'll break down today's big trade sending David Montgomery to the Texans and what that could mean for the running back market in free agency. There is fantasy fallout from all these moves as well. And our guy Michael F. Florio has you covered. Florio will tell you what the Montgomery trade means for Jahmyr Gibbs and reveal Florio's favorite fantasy free agent fits. All the F words. Well, most of them. Welcome inside with the insiders. Alongside Ian Rappaport and Mike Garafolo, I am Tom Pelissero. 1 week from right now, we will be about 11 hours into our TV day, Free Agent Frenzy, all day right here on NFL Network. Special 2-hour editions of The Insiders, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So for the free agents, you got another 7 days to wait to learn your destination. But the trade talks can go on right now. Already, earlier today, we had a couple of moves involving the Houston Texans. First, as Ian reported bright and early today, Texans sending their former first-round pick right tackle Titus Howard to the Browns in exchange for a fifth-round draft pick. Howard also gets a new 3-year, $63 million extension in Cleveland, which is attacking their glaring needs along the offensive line. Then hours later, we reported David Montgomery has a new home. Sonic and Knuckles never won that ring together. Now Montgomery will be pursuing it in Houston. GM Nick Caserio. So we had another trade for a running back. It paid off a couple of years ago with Joe Mixon. Came in and ran for 1,000 yards. Last year they signed Nick Chubb. Ian, this time around it is Montgomery, who we've seen be a very, very effective back in the NFL. Probably has a better opportunity to produce in Houston, which is why the Texans are willing to give up 2 draft picks and an offensive lineman to get him.
Yeah, they certainly were. And you mentioned this is something that General Manager Nick Caserio from the Texans has done the last several years. Find a veteran power back, add him in as a complement or potentially more in the case of David Montgomery, and kind of add that element to their team. Now, these trades, you mentioned them, certainly did not exist in a vacuum. You had the first one, which was the Titus Howard going to the Cleveland Browns to bolster an offensive line that they very, very badly need to improve. When I talked to Todd Monken, their head coach, said improving in the trenches was their most important thing. Big piece here with Titus Howard, who gets a new deal. But for the Houston Texans, it really wasn't just getting the fifth-round pick. It was also clearing this money off the books. Remember, they have the Will Anderson contract extension coming up as well. They needed to kind of clear for that and also add some draft pick compensation and then use some of that, not perfect match, but use some of that to then trade for David Montgomery. And I would say for the Mike, Detroit Lions, it was kind of a similar thing. They know Jahmyr Gibbs are going to come up and make a lot of money. Clearing some salary there makes sense. A win-win and some early fireworks as we get ready for free agency.
David Montgomery pushed back on a report over the weekend that indicated that he wanted out of Detroit. That was not the case. However, realistically, he understood what Ian just said there, that he might be moved. And my understanding was if he was traded, this was his preferred destination, and the Lions remained in communication with Montgomery, obviously wanted to do what's best for the team, but at the same time, a guy that had run so hard for them and done so much for them over the last couple of years wanted to do right by him as well, if possible. Everything came together, and that's why this deal gets done for Houston, who went into last season without Joe Mixon, never had him play last year, so needed to add to the position. Not afraid to go with a veteran running back. Once again, Nick Caserio does that. As for the Titus Howard trade to the Cleveland Browns, they needed to replace Tyler Conklin, who's been banged up for them over the last couple of years. They've got Wyatt Teller, one of the guards, who is going to be a free agent and headed elsewhere. So this Cleveland Browns offensive line is going to look different, and already we know who one of their tackles will be, in this case, in Titus Howard.
That Browns tackle, of course, Jack Conklin. Tyler Conklin is a tight end and fully healthy as of last check, also set to hit free agency. In terms of the running back market, you want to talk about big names, star power that we've got hitting the market. Breece Hall is going to be with the Jets, where that comes with a new deal or a tag. They got until 4 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow to determine that. But go down the list. The Super Bowl MVP, Kenneth Walker III, is set to hit free agency. You've got the likes of Kenneth Gainwell, J.K. Dobbins, Austin Eckler, Najee Harris, those three guys all coming off of injuries late in the season. Dobbins now is fully healthy at this point. It'll be interesting to see, Ian, when we're talking about which of these running backs goes where. Clearly, you have Houston taking a spot with the trade for David Montgomery. You have the Cowboys filling their hole with Javonte Williams. But it seems like those mid-level types of running back deals are getting done already, especially if David Montgomery ultimately gets a boost from the $6 million he's owed. What are you looking for when it comes to where exactly these running backs are going to land?
I mean, that was a really good description of this market, because almost never it feels like do we have this many good, productive, young running backs who are set to make some money. And the Javonte Williams deal really set it up to where it feels like $8 million plus is probably the market here. For instance, if David Montgomery gets a new deal, I would imagine he kind of comes in around there. You have teams like Denver Broncos, Seattle if they lose Ken Walker, perhaps the Kansas City Chiefs, perhaps the Jacksonville Jaguars. You have several teams that need a running back and want to go into the draft saying, we don't have a gaping hole. These guys are going to get paid in a way that we haven't seen in some time. And at the least, Mike, we're going to rebuild the running back market probably where it should be.
There are a lot of good running backs on this market. Kenneth Walker can do a little bit of both, and I think that that makes him stand out because a lot of these guys may be a little bit more specialized in what they can do. You can go down to, let's say, Tyler Algier, who's been a physical runner. That sort of offset what Bijan Robinson has done for Atlanta, but should make a lot of money here. Travis Etienne, a guy that can do some things out of the backfield as well. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to be in the market for a running back. You know that they like to have guys that are versatile, so keep an ear out for those two names that I just mentioned as possible Chiefs targets. But a lot of teams need running back help, and if they're patient, they may be able to get themselves a good value here.
Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco both also on that list of pending free agents. Chiefs need a running back. Also need a right tackle. The team planning to release Jawan Taylor, saving $20 million of cap space and cash in 2026. Not a surprise, the Chiefs moving on from Taylor. Obviously, quite a few penalties during his time in Kansas City. But once again, Ian, a reset of sorts along that Chiefs offensive line.
Meanwhile, time will tell if there's a reset on the edge for the Los Angeles Chargers, because Khalil Mack, I am told, age 35, one of the best sack masters in the NFL over the course of the last decade, is going to play in 2026. Consider retirement. Not going to retire, is going to play. And look at the edge market. There's not a ton of guys available. I expect him to get a really, really nice deal. Don't automatically assume, Mike, that he is going back to the Chargers. He's going to have a lot of options and is open.
Meanwhile, the Commanders informing Marshawn Lattimore, we expected this one, that he is going to be released. This was a guy that they acquired via trade a couple of years ago. This just never really worked out. And then he got injured last season, tore his ACL. So a disappointing tenure in Washington for Lattimore, who will now look for work elsewhere, while the Commanders, who had plenty of cap space in the first place, saving $18.5 million in space with this move.
Did we mention the NFL draft is coming up? We can officially say it is next month, which means another mock draft. Lance Zierlein unleashing his 2.0. Of course, he's got Fernando Mendoza at the top. Then it's a run on edges and corners through the top 5 of this draft. Go to NFL.com/mock draft for more. Chris Rose and Charles Davis wrapped up the combine for us in Indianapolis.
All right, thank you very much, Charles Davis. There was a 4-letter word flying around here a lot this week. Fast. It was the fastest combine we've ever seen. Every position group except for the quarterbacks set a record. What was happening?
Yeah, the quarterbacks were really lagging, weren't they?
Yeah,
they really need to get themselves in gear. But you're right. Fast, faster, fastest. Every position group. And the quarterbacks, they finished second. The best position group since 2003, all of them. Incredible speed on display here at the 2026 NFL Combine.
All right, let's break down some of the players that wowed us. It started on Thursday with the edge rushers, who might be the deepest position in this entire draft class. We know what the Raiders are going to do at 1. Jets at 2, maybe they found their person out here this week.
They've got choices, but one of them will be David Bailey, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech via Stanford. And he came to this combine with the ability to just kind of do the measurements, do the interviews, go home, I'll see you at my pro day. But he chose to participate in everything that was going on. Look, he got after it, 6'3", 5'8", 251 pounds, 4'5", 40, 35-inch vertical, 10'9" broad jump. 14 and a half sacks last year for an FBS playoff team. He did it all, and he's amazing.
Tight ends, Kenyon Sadiq might be the #1 player at that position, but Eli Stowers out of Vanderbilt, holy smokes, what a workout.
Yeah, and we love his story, don't we? Went to New Mexico State to be a quarterback, where his father had played safety. He has an arm injury, converts to tight end, and he's there with one Diego Pavia. They take their act to Vanderbilt.
11-3.
Look at the broad jump, 11-3. The vertical, 45 and a half inches.
Woo.
It's absolutely unbelievable what he got done, and that was at 239 pounds, getting that up in the air, and he converts into a move tight end in the NFL.
Taylon Green, we hope he can stick at quarterback because what a physical specimen he is.
That's all he's talking about, and in his mind, there's no other position for him. But he ran 4.37, and eyes popped. We knew he was fast, but I'm not sure we knew he was 4.37 fast. A smooth runner. When you see him play, there's a lot of conversation about Terrell Pryor, who came before, but I see a lot of Vince Young in him as well. 43.5-inch vertical. He's a better overall athlete than Vince Young. Throwing style is similar, but he wants to be a quarterback. I say he's a quarterback until proven differently. Big arm, just has to harness it a little bit, but boy, did he put on a display here of athleticism and throwing ability.
All right, well, next stop for all these kids, pro days, and his teammate is a guy that you're keeping your eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike Washington Jr., remember, circuitous route, right? I mean, he was out there in New Mexico State, and then he goes to the University of Buffalo. Then he ends up at Arkansas. And his best season was in the SEC at Arkansas, over 1,000 yards last year. Runs 4.33. I don't know if he surprised himself, just relief. I don't know what it was, but the emotion got him. Did none of the rest of the field drills, but look at the talent on display in his one season at Arkansas. Running against my Tennessee Vols right there and getting it done. But as I mentioned, 3 different colleges, but his best season in the SEC. Can't wait to see what he does at Pro Day.
I know you're circling March 31st. That is Volunteers Pro Day. Why is it so big for Jamad McCoy?
Because many people have him as the #1 corner on the draft board. Started the season that way, ended the season that way, but he never played this year because of an ACL injury suffered last January. Now, we have to see him out there moving. The word on the street, word out there is that he passes all the physicals. He's ready to go. We need to see him now go through his pro day workout and see those movement skills, because if so, many teams will keep him #1 on their board, and he could be the first corner taken in the NFL draft.
So that's March 31st. Do you know what the next day is?
That would be April 1st, and it's supposed to be April Fool's, but I think it's bigger for us.
That's because it is Hoosiers Pro Day.
Hoosiers.
Hoosiers! And we get to do that.
Yeah, it felt good, didn't it?
That means we get to see this guy do more than just smile and watch his teammates do their thing on the field.
Hello,
Mendoza.
Las Vegas.
We can't wait. We'll see that on April 1st.
Thanks, fellas. A lot more to come on this show. A lot more from Indianapolis, where our guy Cameron Wolf was working the hallways of the Indianapolis Convention Center, learning everything he could about Jeremiah Love and a whole lot more. The Wolf of Ball Street joins us in just a little bit. But coming up after this, Jeffrey Jania will be here to look ahead. Free agency opens for negotiations 1 week from today. What teams need to make a splash? Jania's got answers right after this on The Insiders. Franchise tag deadline fast approaching, 4 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday. We already know a couple of players being kept off the open market. That includes wide receiver George Pickens with the Cowboys. 1-year franchise tag for him. Cowboys say they want to continue to work toward a long-term deal. Same with the Falcons and tight end Kyle Pitts. Officially had the franchise tag applied. It is set at $15 million. Take a look at the top 10 free agents with that negotiating window set to open in 1 week. You still see Pickens on the board, but he is officially off the board. Malik Willis, according to Greg Rosenthal, sticking with it, the #1 overall free agent. Jalen Phillips, Tyler Lindenbaum, Alec Pierce on that list as well. Go to NFL.com for the full list of the top 101. Welcome back to the Insiders. It's Tom Pelissero, Ian Rappaport, and Mike Garafolo. Let's start right there with Alec Pierce and Daniel Jones in Indianapolis, because this is one of the fascinating situations we're going to be monitoring up until Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. For the Indianapolis Colts, you're only allowed to apply 1 tag. So the Colts have, as we've been reporting over the past week, been engaged with Daniel Jones, trying to hammer out a long-term deal. Jones wants to be in Indianapolis. The Colts want him in Indianapolis. But can the sides come to a number that makes sense? If not, then you would expect that they are going to use a tag, whether that's the franchise or perhaps more likely the transition tag on Jones, freeing up Alec Pierce to hit the market if the Colts can't work out a deal with him. It does have shades of the Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley situation some years ago with the New York Giants. Certainly, Mike, the Colts are hoping that things end up a little bit cleaner than they did in that case.
Speaking of New York, let's talk about the Jets and Breece Hall, a guy that they could have traded at the trading deadline. They said, nope, we like this guy despite trading two of our other star players. And then Darren Muji, the general manager, making it clear that they want Breece Hall back and they're going to do everything they can to get him back. Well, one of those things might be a tag. The franchise tag, maybe the transition tag. So that bottom of the screen may be lying to you there. Maybe the transition tag at $11 million and change, because the franchise tag is at 14. Sounds like the Jets would like to value Hall on a multi-year deal around that transition tag, maybe a little bit north of that, which is $11 million. So don't be surprised if it is that transition tag, which gives them the right to match any offer that he gets anywhere else. There's just no compensation as there would be with the franchise tag. So keep an eye on Breece Hall on Tuesday. Some kind of tag coming his way, Ian.
Well, there's something that we know over the course of the last year. We need to keep our eye on Trey Hendrickson. No, this story has not gone away. One of the big stories of last offseason, one of the big stories of training camp is once again here. Trey Hendrickson's future, I would say, up in the air for the Cincinnati Bengals. They have not yet communicated their plans to their star pass rusher on whether or not they want to franchise him. When he showed up last year, he did his new deal, did not get a no franchise tag clause, so the Bengals still have the right to give him the tag and say, you are not going anywhere, and then try to work out a long-term deal with Hendrickson. If not, if the money is too much, if they'd rather him go be free and say, you know what, we're going to spend the money elsewhere, maybe on defensive linemen, maybe on some linebackers, then Hendrickson immediately would be one of the highest paid and highest profile free agents out there, Tom.
The NFL Combine in the books, but there is still a lot to unpack from the week in Indianapolis. Good thing for us, we've got the Wolf of Ball Street himself, Cam Wolf, joining us. Cam, lay it on me. I saw you working it in the hallways, in the bars and restaurants around town here. Tell me what you learned coming out of that week in Indy.
Tom, the NFL loves Jeremiah Love. I spoke with execs for 3 different teams who said that Jeremiah Love is the best player in this draft. The Notre Dame running back should go in the top 10, and the word I'm hearing, don't be surprised if he goes in the top 5. And so I ask about positional value with the Notre Dame running back, and one exec says this is a draft that's light on elite talent. So if you find one, even at running back, you take them. You're supposed to draft Pro Bowlers and all pros in the top 10, right? Another exec asked me if Jahmyr Gibbs was in the same draft, where would he go? Top 10, top 5, probably, right? And so the Love ran a 4.37 in his 40-yard dash. He ran receiver drills, as you're seeing here, and caught the ball very smoothly. He's a playmaker, not just a running back. So you think about where could he go? You think about at 3, the Arizona Cardinals, 4, the Tennessee Titans, 7, Commanders, 9, the Saints. I want to focus on the Titans, who I know like him a lot. They have a new stadium coming in 2027. They have a lot of needs, but they need a playmaker for Cam Ward. We know the NFL loves Love. Now let's go to Buffalo, who is certainly going to be in the mix for some of these big name trade targets, but one guy they do not want to trade at this time is receiver Keon Coleman. I talked with their general manager Brandon Beane and their head coach Joe Brady. They both were adamant they think Keon Coleman is going to have the best season of his career, and they don't want to trade him. And I'm told that Beane and Brady both met with Coleman's agent at the Combine, told him something similar, shared how they believed in him and what his plan was to have a big 2026. I'm told Coleman's agent also met with Bills owner Terry Pegula, who told him how much he loved Keon as well. And so it's going to take trust. Last year was rough. A couple healthy scratches because Keon had issues with oversleeping and being late. Keon also didn't love how he was used and maybe the opportunities he got in the scheme. They have to work together to make this thing work. So never say never on a trade, but I'm told it would likely take a day 2 pick for a team to land Coleman via trade. And so with the inconsistent first 2 seasons, there's more value right now to the Bills than probably elsewhere. As for Coleman, I'm told he's locked in and having a great year 3, not really worried about the outside noise regarding trades, and uber confident he can still be a consistent impact player. And finally, let's go to Indianapolis, where at the Combine I reported that Anthony Richardson and the Colts agreed to be able to explore a trade. Not a great start in his career in Indianapolis. Injuries have been a huge part of the story, but they think a fresh start will help. Those talks have continued this weekend with several teams, I'm told, talking with the Colts about getting Richardson. The biggest thing here is compensation. It's not going to be a huge price, but you got to figure out in a unique situation how much for a talented young player who is entering the end of his first round contract. So no timeline on a decision. Both teams trying to find the right fit. I reported last week, Minnesota, one of those teams, not the only team. There's going to be more mixes there. And look, as far as Richardson's team, they talked about what is important for him. Yes, he would love to play, but more importantly, they want to find a coach who will consistently develop him and his skill set, help him be the player that he can ultimately be. And he's willing to sit behind a veteran with a strong coach if that's what it ultimately means. And so that's something we'll watch here in the next couple days and weeks to see who ultimately makes that flyer chance on Anthony Richardson and giving him a second chance.
If you're looking for the path, a highly drafted quarterback, set back by a bunch of injuries, traded, and at least reestablished himself as a top backup, Trey Lance is a pretty good comp, landed in the right place with Dallas, and then with the Chargers, now set to hit free agency once again. One of many names we'll be watching. Cam, as always, great stuff. We will talk to you again soon. A lot more to come still here on this episode of The Insiders, including another trip down the recent memory lane in Indianapolis. It's a big opportunity for players to improve their stock, so who did it? Who's shooting up draft boards? Mark Ross has answers right after this on The Insiders. As fast a group as we have ever seen at the NFL Combine. Look at this, by position group. D-line, linebackers, DBs, tight ends, running backs, wide receivers, offensive linemen. The average 40-yard dash time at all those positions tops all time, at least as far back as our data goes to 2003. Quarterbacks coming in second all time, though half those guys don't run the thing anyway. Welcome back to The Insiders. It's Tom Pelissero with our front office analyst, Mark Ross, who was present all 3 days doing the timing down there on the field. Mark, let's start with some offensive standouts. Who jumped out at you in Indy?
Right, before I get to that, there was time to so fast time because I don't remember so many people not running. So all the fast guys said, we're going to run, and the slow guys said, we're not going to. And one of those super fast guys was the quarterback, Kalen Green, out of Arkansas, who absolutely destroyed Anthony Richardson's records with the 40, with the 43.5 vert, with the 11.2 broad jump, and he really just put on a show. I mean, he's a big, good-looking guy as well. Does have to get better with the throwing motion. You see that show up there once he started doing the drills. But a team, his dad compared him to Randall Cunningham, so a team could kind of use him as Randall did in his first rookie season when Ron Jaworski was there, where Buddy Ryan would throw him in on third downs. Maybe the team would be creative with Kalen like that. And then the next guy, completely different, where Cam talked about Jeremiah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame, who absolutely didn't need to do anything, Tom, to secure where he would take it and how teams like him, but went out there and jumped that ran that 4.36, got in those drills, and you saw the explosiveness transfer in the drills as well. The hands were spectacular. Line him up at wide receiver to run routes as well. And then the off the field stuff that he did, just charming the teams with his personality and his intelligence. So Jeremiah Love solidified himself to say, wherever you want to take me, I'll be worth it, no matter how high that is, Tom.
Mark, I said it Thursday morning on Good Morning Football ahead of the linebacker drills, and I'll say it again now. There had never been a linebacker weighing 240 plus, run a sub 4.5 40, 11-foot broad jump, and 40-inch vertical until Sonny Styles, who didn't just beat those numbers, he blew them out of the water. What does it mean to you, and how does this translate into the overall evaluation of the Ohio State linebacker, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, most teams like Sonny Styles a lot, top 15, top 10, like just off of the tape. And then he went and did that. An absolutely historic combine. And 244, the way he moves around, you think he's 214. I mean, he's just so smooth. You see the explosiveness, but then once he started moving around doing this stuff, I mean, a guy that's that explosive, but that smooth is really just a rare combination that he has. And then you've got teams looking at, well, can he play off the ball? Should he be on edge? Should he be here? So should he be the hybrid guy? So because he has that frame, because he has that size, but because he is so fast, so athletic, has the movement, has the change of direction, and the smoothness all in one package, Tom, all these defensive coordinators throughout these meetings leading up to the draft are going to be saying, how do we best use Sonny Styles in our defense and make him into a perennial Pro Bowl player?
And all his brother did the next day was go out with the DBs and run even faster in the 4.2s. Pretty good week for the Styles family. Also a pretty good week, Mark, for the University of Oregon and their players.
Yeah, your Oregon crushed it, right? And the first guy, the safety, Dylan Thieneman, who shed the sneaky athletic moniker that had kind of been labeled on him, Tom. And he did that because he went and ran at 4.35 and jumped 41 and broad jumped 10.5. But then this is where he really stood out. Once he got into the movement drills, it was like, oh yeah, this is transferring into the movement, not just I train really well to go crush the timing. And then his teammate there, Kenyon Sadiq, who arguably is the best tight end in the draft, and then he went and broke the combine record with that 40 there, that 4.39, and then jumped 43.5. Vernon Davis numbers out of Maryland back in the day type numbers. Little disappointed he did not go run routes because really he has to show that element of his game despite the speed. He only averaged 11 yards per catch, and his longest catch this year was 30 yards. So you really would have liked to see him do that. Pro day teams will be all over that, see if the hands and the movement match what he did as far as the workout numbers, Tom.
We'll surely see him do some drills at his pro day coming up here as the pre-draft process rolls on. And, of course, we've got you covered throughout here on NFL Network. Mark, thank you very much. I know everybody's first thought today when they saw that big David Montgomery trade was, how does this impact my fantasy team? Just me? Okay, well, at any rate, Michael F. Florio will be here for me and you to tell you what free agency moves could also impact you in fantasy. Florio with us next on The Insiders.
Free agency frenzy is almost here, and NFL Network is your home for all of these signings, plus the agreements and terms, which actually happen before the signing, starting Monday through Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Every deal, every trade, every surprise. Hopefully we break every single one of them. Wall-to-wall coverage on all 32 teams. Don't miss a move when it all kicks off Monday on March 9th. We had a good one today with David Montgomery, the former star running back for the Detroit Lions, joining the Houston Texans. Remember, all trades cannot become official until the league year begins on Wednesday. Didn't stop us from dropping in that AI picture of David Montgomery and his new team with the Houston Texans. So what is it going to be like? What's David Montgomery going to be like with the Texans? And most importantly, how does it affect my fantasy team? Our guy, Michael F. Florio, joins me in Rapport, Mike Garafolo as well. So, Florio, I want to start with you on the big trade of the day. We know by now David Montgomery has joined the Houston Texans as their 1A, their power running back, just like they've done a couple times over the last several years. What did you make of his fantasy value with this trade?
The commenters on my Twitter page disagree, but I think this is great for David Montgomery's fantasy value. If you remember down the stretch last year, he was often phased out of the Lions offense, and he was a sit for me often in start and sit him. He will be the clear lead back here. And I think he is an RB2 for fantasy purposes who could volume and touchdown his way any week to an RB1 finish and potentially on the year to like a low-end RB1, high-end RB2 type of finish. I know the Texans keep getting rid of offensive linemen, which I do not get, but I do believe they want to run the ball more than they did last year. And then for Jahmyr Gibbs, he could easily be the 1.01. You're going to argue Bijan versus Gibbs all summer, as we rightfully should.
Yes, we will. Perhaps many times on this program. All right, let's play matchmaker. We've got some free agents here. We've got a couple of wide receivers. Let's start there. and tell us what the fantasy implications are, or just, pair them with your favorite team if you want. It's up to you.
Yeah, I'm going to do that one. I've been watching a lot of Love is Blind with my wife lately, and I'm hoping when the Bills open their pod this offseason, Mike Evans walks out. Because Mike Evans gave us his checklist what he wants, right? He wants a QB he can believe in. Check. A chance at a Super Bowl. Check. A proven play caller. Check. And guaranteed targets. Check. I mean, who else are the Bills going to be like, nah, we're throwing the ball to over you, Mike Evans? And even at his advanced age, I think he's exactly what the Bills have been missing. A proven wideout who could stretch the field. Look, no one supports Josh Allen more on the network than I do, but I will admit his deep ball isn't like the most pinpoint accurate. It's more put in the vicinity, and Mike Evans is the prototype wide receiver to take advantage of that. And then Alec Pierce. I think he's going to get a bag, and the Patriots have money to spend, and I just think he is a fantastic fit with Drake May, who led the NFL in EPA on deep passes last year. Pierce is one of the best field stretchers in the NFL. He led the NFL in air yards per target each of the last 2 years. He led the NFL in yards on deep targets 2 years ago, was fourth last year. And I think there's a little bit more to his game than we have seen so far. So you put him in New England with a quarterback who could air it out on a team that has clear targets up for grabs. I think Alec Pierce could break out in a big way if he ends up in New England.
I'm sorry, I heard all of that. I'm still trying to figure out Love is Blind, you watching that with your wife, what's happening there. Actually, funny story. I had dinner with one of the guys who's involved with Temptation Island, one of the producers.
Okay.
Really one of the great and most ridiculous loved reality shows. I'll take Temptation Island 10 days out of 10. Meanwhile, some team is going to be
no invite.
Tempted. See what I did there? On Malik Willis, one of the top free agents, maybe the top free agent, according to our Greg Rosenthal. Mike shaking his head. It's all good. What is the best fit for Malik Willis for you?
Yeah, I said on this show a couple weeks ago that I was more invested in where Malik Willis ends up than anyone, and then Greg Rosenthal had to go and just top me and make him the best free agent. But I think the Cardinals are the best fit because of the LaFleur connection, right? And on top of that, the Cardinals have really good weapons in McBride, Marvin Harrison, Michael Wilson. So that helps the fantasy value for Malik Willis. But over the last 2 seasons, he leads all quarterbacks in passer rating, completion percentage, EPA per dropback, and success rate. And he runs a whole lot, which is why we are really excited for him in fantasy. He could be like Kyler Murray, perhaps even with a little bit more upside, I would say.
All right, Michael F., I do not believe that Kenneth Walker is going to be back with the Seattle Seahawks. That's just my opinion, my informed opinion to this. I mean, it may be wrong, but let's assume that this is a rare case that I am correct, okay? You got 31 other teams. Where do you put Kenneth Walker?
Look, he's a Super Bowl MVP. I'm sure he wants to try to make it back to another one. So why not go team up with Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City? Because the Chiefs, I know Walker's going to get paid. The Chiefs can clear some cap, though. But RB was already such a huge need for Kansas City. And we know they tried to trade for Breece Hall last year. But currently, Rashard Smith, 7th-round pick from a year ago, is the only running back on their roster right now, with Pacheco and Hunt being free agents. And I think Walker's explosiveness would add a missing element to the Chiefs' offense. And defenses would actually have to worry about the running game, which maybe could help open things up downfield for Patrick Mahomes. So maybe with Eric Bieniemy back, we see the Chiefs be able to win downfield, and then that helps. It just helps everyone involved. Kenneth Walker can hit home runs. The pass game can hit home runs. So I think it's a clear need for Kansas City, and this would be a home run for them. So the other teams that don't want to see the Chiefs back in the Super Bowl probably should not let Kenneth Walker go there.
What about teams who want Isaiah Likely, one of the top tight ends available? Obviously, we knew what his catch share was going on in Baltimore. Obviously, Mark Andrews there really ate into it. So it doesn't have the numbers, but still incredibly productive and very talented. Where do you see him ending up? Where should he end up?
I think the Broncos would be a really good fit. And Ian, you hit it. The numbers aren't gaudy because of Mark Andrews also being there. But when Andrews was out, or just on a per target basis, Isaiah Likely pops. He actually was the 6th highest rating of all tight ends of the last 2 years when targeted. And he had the 4th highest on all targets, 4th most yards on all targets of 10 or more yards. So he could stretch the field at a very high rate, which is not something all tight ends can do. I know some of you watching are like, well, it didn't work out with Evan Ingram last year. That's not going to stop fantasy managers from chasing a Sean Payton tight end. It also gives Bo Nix another reliable weapon. It gives likely a chance to be a tight end 1 in a favorable offense. I still think people would draft him as more of a tight end 2, but I certainly think he could be a top 10 fantasy tight end if he ends up on the Denver Broncos.
Well, Florio, I don't know what you're doing next week, but if you got some time, we'd love to hang out again and you tell us everything about every player who's going anywhere and how it's going to help my fantasy team, not as much Mike's, which is something we all appreciate. Florio, thank you very much. As always, excellent stuff. Looking forward to much more next week, and it's going to be a lot next week. A lot this week, though. Don't sleep on this week. That is the Insider's schedule coming up to set the table for free agency, to deal with the franchise tags and figure out where in the world all of these really good players are going. Keep it locked.